Hey, so I had a technical error thing, and so I'm just going to start from where I left off on Trade Talk. Anyway, so the actress playing Wonder Woman gets invited to speak for this senator who's creating so many problems for all of her friends and family friends and loved ones. Because it's a huge opportunity for the actress to be more recognized and everything. She says, me as a hero fighting for democracy, but Jack Randolph has dedicated his life to protecting us from the forces that threaten America. He needs you to stand with him in his battle against commies, pinkos, and other fascists. And this is where it begins to become kind of a problem. That's why Wonder Woman is urging you to re-elect Jack Randolph to the Senate for our future and our children's future. So I find this really interesting. I find this to be a pretty good story, a pretty good take for a liberal. I find this pretty typical of American liberal thinking as it goes on. Because the terror of the Red Scare is that people's lives were completely destroyed because they're falsely accused of being a communist, when really they just had left-leaning views and they weren't evil like communists. But of course, the problem with that philosophy is, or the problem with that viewpoint is, it does a disservice to communism, and it does this thing that's pretty typical in American leftist politics, liberal politics, which is to give the liberal voice credit for the things that were done on the far left. So, like, you'll see this a lot. Like, oh, well, the liberals supported, minimum wage and the 5-day work week and, or the 40-hour work week and all these things. That's stuff the liberal agenda fought for. It's like, no, that stuff far-left activists and unions fought for and liberals got credit for. Far-left activists, including communists within America, fought for. And so you get some really interesting stuff that's attempting to be kind of to that vision. So you've got, the unions at this film studio protesting this studio and demanding stuff. You can even read some of their picket signs. 5-day work week. We work the union. Down with Goldman. We want the union. Bring in union. All these like really generic union protesting signs. But yeah, so the stuff is there. It's in the background. The commentary is there. But it's doing a very typically liberal thing. It's giving a lot of credit to liberal voices. That and really kind of shooing away and sidestepping communist voices, which is it's erasure. It's erasure. It's not that like communists did it all and the leftists and the liberals just took credit for it. No, there's shared contributions. It's just the liberals have tended to erase the far left elements out of the history books in order to try to play more to the middle or some shit I'll never understand. Side note, I don't really care for the art through a lot of this. There's points at which the faces are just really rough and the proportions look really weird. This panel of the actress playing Wonder Woman being shocked and scared it's just rough. It just doesn't look good. So this is why I say, but and then at times the art does look alright. Like, this is a pretty good panel. I like that one quite a bit. So this is just one of those things where I'm like, it's not bad by any means, and definitely this was a thing that happened. People who weren't communists were accused of being communists because they went to one gathering where someone said the word communism. So that's pretty damn realistic. But at the same time, the way that these are of course fictional characters, the way that this story decides to portray these fictional characters is implicitly, if not explicitly, a commentary on the level to which they apply the writer's political views or the way the reader's political views are to be measured. So, the question here becomes, or the conflict here becomes, isn't it so awful that people were accused of being communists and by just such an awful state? When really the commentary should be, isn't it so awful that people were persecuted for being communists, even if they really weren't? Like, that's the thing. Is like, and there's times where I'm like, it's kind of dancing with that. But then there are other times where it's clearly, it seems to clearly be taking a side. There's this moment where the actress is talking with the studio head. He says, "You know Charles is no communist. He's been with the studio for 12 years, made you millions, and you just turn your back on him? How could you?" It's like, yeah, but like, that. Why are we choosing to be sympathetic in that regard? Is what the question becomes. And there's other moments, like, I gotta find him when he's talking at the like the writer boyfriend goes to testify before Congress at one point, and he says, "Look, my name is Bennett. I changed it like half of Hollywood legally, and to call playwrights like Chekhov and Gogol communists, that's insane. About as insane as thinking I'm a communist." "Well, we disagree, Mr. Bennett. The evidence we have before us would indicate that you are a communist." "You know, I knew you were going to say that. Truth is, I am and always have been a loyal American, but nothing I can say is going to convince you of that." So this is like, it's in part like looking at the hypocrisy and the ridiculousness of the Red Scare, but it's doing so without much actual sympathy towards, real communists living in America. "Gentlemen, my client is anxious to cooperate. All we want is for the truth to be heard. An admirable goal, counsel. Now, Mr. Bennett, on the evening of November 27th, 1944, did you attend a meeting of Citizens for a Free Nation, an organization known to be a front for communist activities in Hollywood?" "Sir, I was there until they started talking about Marxism, socialism. Then I walked out." That's where this starts to lose me a little bit, because the way that's written that's written as the totally rational thing to do. And again, you can be someone that hates socialism, Marxism, communism, whatever. It's fine. I don't care. My point is, this plays very much to a liberal, particularly American liberal, sensibility about this kind of thing, as opposed to someone who has actual leftist views. Yeah. Anyway, they end up, the actress playing Wonder Woman gets booked for another campaign event for this red scaring senator, and when it all looks like she's gonna just go up and take the mic and say some words and propagandize for him, Wonder Woman takes the mic. He says, "Jack, would it be all right if I say a few words?" "Well, certainly." "Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the performance you just witnessed was make-believe, but right now I'd like to talk about the real world. Jack Randolph is right. America is a great country. And the thing that makes America great is our freedom. Anything that stands in the way of that is the real threat to this country. In America, the real villains are those who would take away our freedom to think differently than they do. These men would smear innocent people with false accusations and destroy their lives. They are our enemies. Ladies and gentlemen, at this very moment, an innocent man named Charles Bennett sits in jail, falsely accused of being a communist. Abandoned by people he thought were his friends, his career destroyed by rumors and lies. This is the work of Jack Randolph. Support him, and what happened to Charles Bennett could happen to any of us." And then they start pulling her away from the mic, and she says, listen to me. Men like Jack Randolph cannot be allowed to continue destroying... and then drama breaks out. Wonder Woman accidentally gets shot, and yada, 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 yada. The actress survives, though, and they end up moving to Greenwich Village as a happy bunch of hippies, because that's a safe place for those accused of being communists. And like, so it's interesting to put this in the real world and everything. And yeah, if you weren't a communist and you were accused of being a communist, it could completely destroy your life, and that would be tragic. But it's also tragic that you weren't allowed to be a communist, or it would destroy your life. That's kind of the more underlying tragedy. Like, I get it, the Soviet Union did fucked up shit. I'm not going to sit here and argue that point with anyone. You gain nothing by being right. I gain nothing by denying it. It's a stupid trap of an argument to get trapped in. But it's just very liberal. Very, very liberal. And so as you begin to really, truly think critically leftist and begin to think socialist, begin to think communist, or about those things critically and how they function, how they work in regards to your own capitalist society, you begin to see stuff like this. Like, even the left in America is pretty damn far right to paint this story this way. So, like I said at the beginning of this review, 5 years ago, when I was more liberal and was afraid of being construed as a communist or whatever, and like I say, I'm a communist sometimes more as a joke. I'm not. I'm left. That's about the only label I feel super comfortable with. But it just rubs me a little bit the wrong way now. It's pretty typical liberal American, which is, yeah, I think you got the best intentions, but I think you kind of losing me somewhere along the way, and you're just kind of trapped in a particular worldview that perpetuates American imperialistic dominance in a capitalist society. So that was this episode of Trade Talk. Bye!